The College Basketball Experience Summer Coaches Tour edition for Illinois State head coach Ryan Pedon edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8 Challenge. Sign up today using that promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $250 bonus in cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Build your own betting sports model using their AI betting engine. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm, RITHMM today. And welcome, everybody, to the College Basketball Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We continue our summer school coaches tour with the head coach of the Illinois State, head coach Ryan Pedon, that will be on here shortly. It is Tuesday, July 9th, and we're moving along. November 4th will be here before you know it. But first, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. Also known as Mac Tonight over here at the College Basketball Experience. And like I said, go check out our rest of our coaches tours. Ryan Pedon joins a bunch of coaches that we've had on. We got multiple lined up throughout the summer, throughout the fall as we lead into November 4th. Go check out Noah and I's conference realignment talk last night as we dove into the SEC and WCC, the new day and age in college basketball. But enough with me talking about some updates on the show. I want to get into our new chapter of the Summer Coaches Tour. And with further ado, the head coach of the Illinois State Redbirds, Ryan Pedon. And we continue our Summer Coaches Tour on the College Basketball Experience with the head coach of the Illinois State Redbirds, Coach Ryan Pedon. What is up, Pedon? How are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, Ryan. Great to see you, man, and congratulations on all the success you're having with your podcast. That's awesome.
I appreciate it, man, and I appreciate you taking the time to join the College Basketball Experience. Just fill everybody what you've been up to the last couple months. Season ended in late March, early April. Lots happened between now and then.
Yeah, it has, and I think coaches all across the country are probably feeling the same way. Your spring into summer gets shrinked big time. Gets shrunk. I said shrinked. Gets shrunk big time. And big reason for that obviously is the influence of the portal. The coming and going of your players, the guys that you have to replace them with, filling your roster. And, I think that's really kind of cut into the off season. And, of course, scheduling gets bumped back even further too. I can remember the days when scheduling, you might be done with your schedule or have one game to get after the season. And it seems like that's harder and harder these days because everybody wants to wait and see, who's everyone's going to have on their roster. So, it's been a whirlwind. It's been I feel like it's just meshed into the summer for us. Of course, you get really excited when your new team does get to campus, and you can begin the team building process. And for us, that's really important. The summer is very important to our value system and sort of setting our values in place and building our habits. And so it's an exciting time of year. And now we kind of shift towards that summer recruiting, as you know, which you're all over the place.
Yeah, the camp scenes and the AAU events. I I miss those days a little bit. Some days I don't miss that because it was always chaotic. But Coach, I want to rewind. We'll talk a little bit about your team, current state of college basketball, and all that good stuff. But let's rewind to 1996 to 2000. You played college basketball at Worcester College. Talk about your playing career and just when you knew you wanted to coach, because ultimately not everybody can keep playing all the time and they got to do something in life after basketball.
Yeah, for sure. So my path to coaching was pretty linear. I never, doubted that I wanted to coach. I knew that from a very early age. I think when I realized, hey, you're not going to make money playing this game, so you better pivot quickly. My pivot was to stay in the game. And I think, there was a period of time early in my college career, I was trying to figure out what that looked like. Did I want to coach high school? Did I want to become a teacher? Or did I want to really chase this thing at the college or pro level? And, I ultimately decided to give it a run at the college level and, really started from the bottom there. So my experience at Worcester was great. I feel like, as you get older and wiser, you look back on lessons you've learned throughout your life. And I learned so much at Worcester through adversity. To that point in my life, I didn't really experience any adversity on the basketball court. I came from a small town and, like most college players, you were one of the best players in your town or in your area. And you get to college and you realize, oh man, like there's a lot of really good players out there and you get hit in the face. So, I was a role player at best throughout my college career, but a very proud Worcester alum. We had a great time, learned a lot about winning there. I played for a legendary Hall of Fame head coach, Steve Moore, and very proud of my affiliation with the College of Worcester. We were 96-16 over our 4-year career. And I always said, I'm very proud of the fact that had I not gone to Worcester, they would have been 96-16 over that same 4-year span. So, but I was very proud to be a part of that and met some great lifelong friends. And of course, met my wife at College of Worcester as well.
That's great. And you mentioned it, the winning continued for you. You go to Miami of Ohio, then you go to Toledo, Illinois, Butler, Ohio State, eventually before becoming a head coach. Talk about the different bosses that you work for. Take it a little bit from each and every one, whether it was Coach Holtmann with multiple stops. You got Coach Groce. You talked about Coach Moore. A lot of good stops, a lot of winning, a lot of good mentors. Just speak to that.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate. I feel like I've worked for some great coaches and coaches that were all very different. My first boss was Charlie Coles, and he was an old school coach. For those that remember him, he was one of a kind. He's the kind of guy that if you meet him once, you never forget the guy. And he had a huge impact on me as a person, just as much, I think, as a man as he did as a basketball coach. Just his old school ways, his methods, his way of training the human brain, and the sort of quirkiness that he approached coaching with at times. And he was one of the funniest individuals I've ever been around. A great coach. And I think in terms of my coaching career, I think both he and Chris Holtmann they all have influenced me in a very big way. But the bookends of my career, it seems like, probably have had as big of impact on me as a coach. So I've worked for Tod Kowalczyk, who is still going strong at the University of Toledo. Was there for 3 years. He's the best CEO I've ever been around in terms of a college coach. How he is engaged in the community, connected in the community, his system and way of doing things in terms of running a program. And he's an unbelievable offensive mind. I worked for John Groce and had 2 years with him at the University of Illinois. John was he's the most high energy coach I've ever been around, the most positive, upbeat, and energetic guy I've ever been around. And he's a hell of a coach. I learned so much from him. I don't want to forget Jim Christian. I was with Jim Christian from 2002 to 2005, his first 3 years at Kent State. And I've always said, like, about Jim, his, he's one of the smartest minds I've ever been around. If he were not a college coach, I think he'd be a trial lawyer. Like he's very intelligent in all areas of the game, and just learned so much about building a program. And he took over from Stan Heath after their Elite Eight run, and had big shoes to fill, and just did an unbelievable job. And I still lean on Jim a lot to this day, so I'm real thankful for him. And last but not least, Chris Holtmann, working for him at Butler University for 2 years. And then, he got the job at Ohio State, and I followed him there and was there with him for 5 years, coaching in my hometown, which was in a lot of ways a dream come true. And Holt has just really impacted my coaching philosophy, as has Butler University, my experience there, as much as, any guy I've worked for. And just the lessons I learned from him in terms of core values, and just running an organization, running a program, and sticking to your values, and trusting your instincts, and coaching to your convictions. So I've been very fortunate. Sorry it went so long, but I feel very fortunate to have learned from so many great coaches.
Yeah, I love asking that question, just because every coach comes from a different background, works for different coaches, takes something from one guy, then another thing for another guy, multiple ways to do things. But now you're a head coach. So what was the biggest transition for you, making that transition 18 inches, they say, from one bench seat to the other, where spotlight's on you, you got to make the decisions, all the ideas that you had as an assistant coach. Now you actually got to make the decisions. What was the biggest transition for you as a head coach?
Yeah, I think, when you move over that seat, I've coached before I got the head coaching job here at Illinois State. I'd been an assistant for 22 years. So there's not much I hadn't seen, right? Like, I wasn't encountering scenarios that I didn't know, hey, this is probably the right thing to do. This is how you handle this situation, things like that. I think experience is, in a lot of ways, your biggest preparation, your most valuable preparation for being a head coach. But what I would say is probably, the amount of things coming your way. That's definitely a difference. Understand that my last 5 years, I was at Butler before that, and I was at Illinois before that. When you're at that level, you have such big staffs. So you have such a narrow focus as an assistant coach: recruiting, player development. And for me, that was offense, being the offensive coordinator, in my last 7 years working with Holtmann. So that was easier in a lot of ways, because you didn't have as many things to focus on. When you're a head coach, you have to be really, really committed to your organization. And I consider myself a really organized person, but the advanced planning and organization, level of organization that's required, that's something that was a real step up, because you're pulling all the strings now. And I would also say that just the amount of decisions, I think that's probably was something that I noticed in my first year. I was like, man, I have to make decisions on everything from equipment to strength and conditioning to travel to, until you get your system in place. And I think one lesson I've learned is, this is an Urban Meyer deal. It was at Ohio State when Urban was there, and he taught some leadership classes to us assistant coaches. And he said, all great programs have great systems. And, we have a system and a way of doing things for every bucket within our program. And, that originates from Urban, but I think what it does is it helps streamline and, organize for your staff, for your players, and for your own self as a leader, organize your own way of doing things.
So to multiply it, you not only transition from assistant coach for 22 years to head coach, you do so probably in the most changing landscape in college basketball history.
Yeah.
You took over Illinois State in 2022. That feels like 20 years ago itself. Talk about just you talked about learning it to be a head coach, the transition, the amount of work that's going your way, but
Sure.
then the ever changing landscape of what the game is now, the business is now, where not anyone really had an answer 3 years ago when this was changing.
Yeah, I think the reality is we're all in a very in a period of transition, right? There's a lot of movement in our industry, a lot of the ways of doing things, the rules, the standards, those have all sort of changed. I would argue that the skill set of head coaches, especially, has changed a lot too, because we have to be fundraiser. We've always had that probably a component of our program,
Yeah.
but now I would say coaching your team and fundraising, at least at our level, those have got to be the top two qualifications. So you better be really good and really willing to spend time with people that you don't know, take time getting to know people, building relationships, and ultimately cultivating an environment and an atmosphere that people want to be a part of what you're doing. And that's always been a part of it, but I think now more than ever, it's the lifeblood of, what recruiting looks like right now. So yeah, I think that, and I think, Ryan, I think really staying true to your convictions is important. I've tried to avoid the transactional approach, the transactional nature. I've always been a more of a transformational guy, I guess is what I would say, looking to help young people navigate their lives and learn life's lessons through our wonderful game. And, that's what motivates me. That's what drives me still. And I don't ever want to lose that. So I don't ever want to make it about money. And I don't want to recruit guys that make it about money first and foremost. I want guys that really want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, be a part of a program that, is going to match their value system, and, pursue goals and pursue dreams together with a bunch of guys that I want to be around on a daily basis. So staying true to your convictions, I think, is now as important as ever in my mind.
Couldn't agree more. So let me ask about the league that you coach in, because for me, it's like one of my favorite leagues in college basketball. It's a true college basketball league, the Valley. It's one of the most underrated tournaments. It's basketball towns. You've gone through the gauntlet twice now. You went from 6 wins your first year to 9 wins the last year, 11 total, 15. So you made some strides. You head into year number 3. What do you think the biggest thing to succeed in the Valley, where it seems like every game comes down to the final 2 minutes in league play?
Sure. So this is like a hot button topic for me, because it's something that I put a lot of thought into in the off season. Is all right. How do we take this thing from where it's at to where we want it to be? Like,
yep.
Now it's time. These are sort of the sweet spot years of our program. We're building this into what we want it to be. And I feel like we have a roster and a culture now that is in place. So more so than ever before for us. And, when our whole team came back about 2 weeks ago, we had a team meeting the very first night, Sunday night. And the first thing I showed him, I put a video up on the screen, and it said the fine line, right? And showed clips of the NC State versus Virginia conference tournament game, where Virginia was up 7 with about 1:05 to go. And I think they missed 4 or 5 free throws to end the game. NC State looked dead to rights multiple times in the last 2 minutes. And I showed some clips there. And long story short, one of the Virginia players, guard, missed a front end of a 1-and-1. NC State got the rebound, went to the other end, fired a shot at the buzzer, banked it in, and the game went to overtime. Well, they ended up beating Virginia. They advanced to the championship. They beat North Carolina to win the championship of the ACC. They weren't going to make the tournament. Now they're in the tournament. They win the first 2 games and head to the Sweet 16. They win the next 2 games and go to the Final Four. And my whole point in showing that was talking to our players about like the fine line between winning and losing. And, you are what you make it. We lost a lot of close games last year. We had a lot of close games, 22 games that were decided by 3 possessions or less. We had some losses I know that we'd like to have back. And I said, even 3 games like that I know I can think of right now that we'd all love to have back. That would have been the difference for us between a 7 seed and a 4 seed. And we would have won, 2 tiebreakers and gotten a bye in the tournament. And so how would you look at yourself then? And, everyone is so close. It's just so close. Indiana Pacers were beating the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals in 3 of the 4 games they played with under 2 minutes to go. And the Celtics are world champions by a long margin, the fine line, right? And so there's some important lessons I think that we all had to learn. And, like I said earlier, a lot of times experience can be your greatest teacher and your most valuable commodity at the same time. So I think if we take the lessons that we've learned, some of them tough, apply them as we're continuing to build our program, I'd like to think we're going to be better off because of it.
Yeah, and you see this every year where a team the previous year lost X amount of 1-possession games, and then the next year they're a year older. They find a way. They grind those games out. They get the stops and make the free throws, and they get on the right side of all those games. And you mentioned it. You flip a 15, 16 win season into 20 plus, and everybody views everything differently. And I expect that from you guys next year. I have a good feeling because I watch you guys so much this year where I'm like, man, every game with these guys comes down to the last possession. But yeah, before we get out of here, I appreciate you taking all this time. I know you're a busy man. You're about to hit the road recruiting. For all the Illinois State Redbird fans out there that'll be watching this, Coach Pedon, what do you guys pride yourself on a daily basis in your program?
Well, I think, number one, we talk about our core values a lot. I realize that sounds cliche or corny, but, I want our guys to live their lives on and off the floor with that. We lean into those quite a bit. When we're on the basketball floor, we have 4 main basketball values: dominate the effort plays, be a great teammate, set the rules, and play with an edge. And those are 4 things that we have to be about every single day. So on the court, what that looks like might be different than talking holistically when we lean into our core values. But, I think beyond that, Ryan, I think for us, something that we really take pride in is the accountability that exists in our program and the connectedness that we have as well. And, those are 2 really important parts to, where we're at and what we're chasing right now too, is the accountability that's required to understand that we're accountable for all of our actions, and we got to hold each other to certain standards on a daily basis. And then the connectedness, that's as hard, I think, as anything in this era. We have 7 new players in our locker room out of 15. And let's be honest, that's a low number for college basketball. So the connectedness like that takes effort on individuals' behalf, but also it requires a vulnerability that we've got to break down some walls, and we've got to be able to not just teach our new guys how we do things, but also empower them enough to have the confidence to open up and not walk around in silos. Like, we've got to be connected. There's no trick to this. The most connected teams, those that can get to that point the soonest, are going to benefit the most. So, we can choose to not do that until we lose a few games and learn some tough lessons and then drop our guard, or we can say, hey, all in now. And I got a group of guys that I feel really good about. So I gave you a lot to chew on there, but those are just, I don't know, those are some things that we lean on.
Well, I'm excited for next year. I can tell you that. So, Coach Pedon, thank you for stopping by the College Basketball Experience. Best of luck this season. We'll be pulling for you and look forward to having you on again.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ryan. You do a great job, and thanks for all that you do for college basketball.
Thank you, man. See you. Coach Ryan Pedon of the Illinois State Redbirds. Go way back. I worked camp at Illinois when he was working for John Groce 1 year, so that was how I got to know him back, I think in 2013, 2014, one of those years, and stayed in touch, and really happy for him with the success, going to Butler and Ohio State with Chris Holtmann, getting his job to be a head basketball coach at Illinois State in the Valley, one of my favorite leagues, basketball league like we talked about, all basketball towns, maybe the most underrated college basketball conference tournament. And year one, 11 wins, then to 15. They lost a bunch of close games last year. They could be a team that we look at next year that could maybe win 20-plus games, get to the dance, and we'll be covering it every step of the way. Let's pay some bills on the way out before we get up on out of here, because the college basketball experience is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You could win 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8 challenge. Sign up today using that promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick. First time deposit offer up to $250 bonus in cash. Underdog Fantasy right above me, promo code TCESGPN. And Circus Sports is back, better than ever, 16 million guaranteed in prizes. Sign up today between now and September 7th with the Proxy. And they have a deal at footballproxy.com to save you $50 with promo code SGP. So make sure you get on over there and get that code SGP. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Claim your 7-day free trial by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm for all those data analytic, predictive analytics. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. All right, we are back on the college basketball experience. Not a lot of news. Like I said, it's Tuesday, July the 9th evening. We will continue our summer coaches tour with the head coach of North Florida, the Ospreys in the Atlantic Sun, Coach Matt Driscoll. We just got that recorded today, and we will launch that tomorrow evening. High energy guy, great coach, done an unbelievable job there. Looking forward to having him. Special thanks to Ryan Pedon of the Illinois State Redbirds. Like I said, man, that's a team to look out for next year in the Valley, and look forward to seeing the progression into year number 3. You see sometimes year number 1, year number 2, lay down that foundation, and year number 3, your program shoots off. And we expect that from the Redbirds next year. Shout out to the chat, everybody. There's a couple Redbird fans in there, so appreciate you guys. Make sure you're subscribed to all channels so you have all these notifications when we go live, who we got coming on. Like I said, we're going to have so many coaches throughout the summer and fall. The only reason we're able to do this is because of you guys and your guys' support for the show. So keep it up, like, subscribe, share, all that stuff, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Go check out all Colby's college football experience episodes, team previews, and Noah Beanick over at the baseball channel. And we just broke down Big 12 media days from the football side of things with Troy and I. That's all I got, guys. See you tomorrow night on the college basketball experience with Coach Driscoll of the North Florida Ospreys. I am Moneyline Mac. And you better start thinking about yours. And we are out of here.